Aren't you Jim Hardin?
Are you Blake Giles?
What do we call this podcast?
Sidelines?
And headlines?
I think that's it. We're back.
It's been a while, Jim.
It has.
All the way back to the end of the national championship season since we've done a podcast. What's been going on in your life since then?
Well, I almost got excited by the Atlanta Hawks. They lost by 51. And the Braves, who I normally don't get excited about, are doing great. I just been trying to make it to warm weather and dreading when it gets too warm.
Yeah.
But,
well, hey,
everything's good.
This last weekend, early May, you expected it to be hot, and it was pretty cool. So we've kind of been holding off on that hot weather a little bit.
So what's been going on with you?
Well, I had a big toe injury. And I mean literally, an injury of my big toe.
I know.
I dropped a backpack sprayer directly onto my left big toe. Small fracture, deep bruise, and this is the ick factor. The nail was knocked loose and they had to remove it. And so that was 7 weeks ago. I had to wear what they call a Darko shoe. I finally went to my podiatrist for the 4th time today, and he cleared me. He said, "You're good to go. Put on a regular shoe. Don't call me unless you need me." So
that's great news.
It is good news, but I was walking around like an old man for a while there.
Well, I know we talked about it. I noticed you. I really couldn't tell after a while there that you were even limping, but you wore the boot up until yesterday.
Yeah, it was a funny looking, not really a boot, but a glorified flip flop,
right.
And you just strap it on, and it was kind of awkward, and even when you don't limp, it makes you walk funny. But we got rid of it yesterday, so I'm glad to be back. I went to the Georgia spring football game. You went up to Clemson, I think.
Of all places. You got to be really bored on a Saturday afternoon. It was a beautiful day about that day, whatever date that was. I think it was the week before the Georgia game.
Uh-huh.
And my son and I just went up there, and it was a beautiful day. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about some way too early predictions, but I came back and I told you that I don't think they're going to have the quarterback. We talk all the time about how Dabo's a great coach when he's got a great quarterback.
Yeah.
But then, as all the other spring games kind of played out, you kind of realize the spring games really mean anything at all. I mean,
I went to the Georgia spring game and was up there, and it was a decent game, but you don't come away, I learned this, I learned that. Georgia played 7 quarterbacks in the game, 7 quarterbacks, and everybody's worried about who's in the quarterback room. Well, there's a lot of people in the quarterback room. Now, how many of those people are going to be a factor? Obviously, Gunnar Stockton's the guy coming back to be the starter. Behind him, you had Ryan Puglisi, who, frankly, I was not too impressed with in the spring game. I thought the other Ryan Montgomery, played even better. And then there's ex-Clark Central Hezekiah Millender, who I thought looked pretty good. Then you had Bryson Beaver, the late addition to the signing class to replace Jared Curtis. He played a good bit, looked pretty good. Then you had 2 other guys that just kind of got a cup of coffee in the game, Coulter Ginn, and then Jake Bobo. Now, Jake played 1 play at quarterback. And the scenario in which Jake ever plays quarterback at Georgia is probably pretty slim. Now, Whit, who went to Texas,
Muschamp.
His son played quarterback against Florida State because the game got so far out of hand. So maybe Jake Bobo gets to do some mop-up duty.
He'll probably be a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah, for him, it's just great to be on a team coached by your dad. Yeah. Who would want to do that? That's right. I'm happy for both of them.
I am too. That's got to be really cool. Before I forget, the Clemson, one funny thing that happened in the Clemson spring game, Dabo had a microphone. I know Kirby probably didn't do this. Every single play he's offering commentary over the PA about the first series in the game. He just got on this true freshman. Just revert. And my son looked over at me and said, "I hope that boy's mama's not here." But funny connection, Sammy Brown from Jefferson.
Right.
he had a late hit out of bounds and got a penalty, and Dabo got on him pretty good on the. But Sammy, I mean, that's a little different. He knows how to take it probably better than the true freshman did.
Because Sammy's not going to be on the sidelines because of that.
Yeah, that's right. He's not going to put him on the. But Tate Reynolds was a true freshman quarterback that after the game I read about it and they said he looked good, but you can remind me if I'm wrong about this. I didn't see a lot of explosiveness on that Clemson offense. Kind of like the last few years. But I noticed, I criticized Clemson. I noticed Auburn, their offense didn't look too great in the spring game.
So who's their quarterback going to be?
The Byron Brown, the kid that transferred from South Florida.
Okay, that's right. Came with the coach.
Yeah, and if he plays like he looks, he's going to be good. He's a big, strong, fast kid. Who knows? I think they're going to be better on offense. I think that's been their downfall, obviously, the last probably 4 years. I mean, they've been decent on defense and bad on offense. But
well, they lost some great skill players. The receiver went out to Texas and things like that. Are they going to be able to kind of make up for that?
They supposedly have replaced them, but who knows? Everybody's optimistic about that scenario because of what Indiana did. But I'm hopeful. I know we'll talk more about it in the fall. And then I saw, speaking of Texas, Arch Manning had a terrible spring game. And, Cam Coleman, I personally think, throw the spring game out the window. My son told me Steve Sarkisian's not a good coach. He can never win the big one. But I just think they're going to be good this year. I mean, Arch is.
Well, they don't have to play Georgia this year.
They don't have to play Georgia. And that Cam Coleman, I know everybody around the country probably don't know about him because he played on a bad team at Auburn for a couple of years, but that guy is a great player.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's up there in the George Pickens category.
He's a lot physically like George Pickens. But I think Texas is going to be good. I think we probably won't remember anything about spring practice about September 1st.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's always that way.
Yeah.
I can always remember back when Herschel was at Georgia, and, of course, he never went through spring practice because he didn't need to, and he was running track.
Right.
And there was a tailback who was on the team, and every spring he'd look like an all-world player, and he never got on the field.
Got on the field, yeah.
So, that's just the way it is and everything. So, speaking of quarterbacks, did Auburn go after that Sorsby kid who transferred from Cincinnati to Texas Tech? Did they ever express any interest in him?
I think so. There might have been some conversation about that. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. Of course, now he's been declared ineligible.
He would have fit right in at Auburn.
You said that. I didn't, because of gambling. And he didn't gamble on his own team, did he?
No, I don't think so.
And, of course, now the gambling is so prevalent all over the place. All the networks promote it, and you've got all these prop bets that they're always saying, we'll give you $5 on this, and you can get a $10 payout or something like that. And so it's not surprising that all these young guys get sucked in, but it's been a hard, fast rule by the NCAA. If you gamble, you're out. And now this guy, just like everybody else, what's he done? He's taken it to court. He's looking for a friendly judge.
Well,
whatever happened to rules?
I don't know. They kept Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame for gambling.
Yeah. Do you think he'll ever get in?
Well, I mean, I always think about that if he ever does, that might be a case for him not to get in, Does that sort of open
Shoeless
up
Joe Jackson's not in, is he?
Mm-mm.
So why would Pete Rose be in?
Yeah.
And I think the evidence against Shoeless Joe Jackson was not nearly as strong as the evidence was against Pete Rose.
Did Shoeless Joe supposedly...
He was part of that Chicago Black Sox scandal in 1919, supposedly through the series.
It was his own team, right?
Yeah, right.
Suppose Rose claims he didn't bet on his own team, right?
I think that's not true, though.
Really?
I think he did bet on his team, if I'm not mistaken. I supposedly bet on his team to win.
Bet on his team to win, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah, but yeah. And that, again, that's always been a baseball had. That's it. You gamble, you're out. So... And, kudos to Bart Giamatti, who had the courage to throw him out of the game.
Well, my regret was I didn't do steroids and hit 700 homers,
Could you have done it?
I probably could have been a little better than I was, but I don't think I could hit 17.
Did you play baseball?
A little bit. I've told you, we joke about, I grew up in Forsyth, Georgia, where the two favorite sports were football and spring football. So baseball wasn't an emphasis.
Baseball was my sport till I was about 15, and then I had terrible eyesight. I couldn't see, and then I just couldn't hit the ball good enough. And tried out for my high school team when I was a sophomore, and the seniors that they had that year were loaded up. Very strong team. People like Paul Gilbert, who went on and played quarterback at Georgia. Lamar Lewis, who became an attorney, was a very good pitcher on that team. Chuck Perry, who was my boss at the Athens Banner Herald, he was a very good baseball catcher. He told me one time he knew he had no future in baseball. When the scouts were there to see Ron Blomberg play against his American Legion team, and Chuck was 2 for 3 with a double, and not a single one of them came up to him after the game. He said, I knew then I had no future in baseball. And of course, Blomberg is the answer to a trivia question. You know what it is?
I think you've told me, but remind me.
He's the first designated hitter in the history of baseball.
Really?
He was the first batter who batted as a designated hitter for the New York Yankees.
I guess I had heard that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What year would that have been?
Oh man, when did they bring in the designated hitter? I don't remember.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because I know the time period you're talking about when he would have probably.
Well, it must have been in the 70s.
In the 70s, yeah.
That the American League introduced the DH, and of course the National League didn't come along until many years after that. But and now it's ubiquitous. Everybody's got it. High school, college, the majors. And, I didn't like it. I wanted to use the old pitcher's hit, but I've adjusted,
Oh, yeah. Well, tell me what you think about the NFL draft.
Well, I am not a guy that pays a lot of attention ahead of time to the draft. I don't look at those mock drafts and all that kind of stuff. It's too much speculation, and I don't follow the other players enough to know. But it was interesting to see. Two things jumped out at me. Number one was Ohio State. 4 of the first 12 players drafted were from the Ohio State football team. How many games did they win in the college football playoffs? 0. They lost to Miami in the quarterfinals, 24-14. How do you lose in your first game of the playoffs and not win your conference championship when you got 4 of the 12 best players, seniors in the country?
And we talked about them at the beginning of the year last year. We all thought how good they were going to be. And I know you and I talked about Kirby's comments at the Regions golf tournament, wherever it was. I guess it was in Birmingham, talking about how the great teams at Alabama back in 2010, 2011, whenever it was, how much better they were. And I'm sure he would better than they were than the teams now.
Yeah. Because
of the depth.
Right.
And so forth. And then I'm sure he feels that way about the 21 Georgia team. But I think as far as the Big Ten, I know brought up the Big Ten and Ohio State. I think they're, the Big Ten or the SEC. Do you think the Big Ten is overtaking the SEC?
Well, that's what they certainly want to claim. I mean, they had 19 first-round picks, which was the first time in, I think, 19 years that the SEC had not had the most first-round picks. And so all the Big Ten fans are saying, well, we've won 3 straight national championships now, and we have leapfrogged the SEC as the dominant league in the country. And they got right to crow. I mean, they won the national championship. But if you look at the total number of picks, the Big Ten had 58, SEC had 75.
And I'm sure there's some numbers to back this up somewhere. And what Kirby was saying was the transfer portal and all that, there's not as much depth. That's the main thing he was saying. But I think there's a lot of talent from the South that's now just, rather than being a backup defensive tackle at Alabama, the guy's starting at Michigan or whatever.
Let's look at Caleb Downs, for example, as a classic example. This guy, he's at Ohio State, but he played his first year at Alabama.
Yeah, he's from Georgia.
Yeah. So do we give credit to the Big Ten for that?
Yeah.
you know, that's where he finished up. And sure, they helped him become a good player. I'm sure they coached him along. And
But if Saban hadn't retired, he would have been at Alabama.
exactly.
And never left.
Yeah. Well, Georgia certainly wanted to get him and thought they were, I think, until the very last second.
I heard they were too.
And it was probably NIL that swung him extra money that sucked him in there. Speaking of which, I saw a figure the other day that they said that pretty much the going rate now for a high school 5-star, 4-star kind of player is $500,000 a year.
And what was your running back that got suspended for signing a jersey?
Oh yeah, Tim Gurley. Yeah,
Todd Gurley. Yeah.
Todd Gurley. I mean, yeah. Who knows? I mean, it's just crazy. How much? And where does all that money come from?
Well, it's like when they talk about professional athletes' salaries and everything. I can't quite fathom the dollars. You know, I mean, I just hope Jimmy Rain at Great Southern Wood. I hope they're profitable and he's sliding some money towards Auburn. I guess these big time boosters, they got money to burn.
I guess so. And you know, one of the things I've heard is that one thing that Georgia doesn't have is one of those multi-millionaires that's willing to come in and say, I'll give you X amount of dollars a year to play with or whatever.
Well, they got some people. It's just who's willing to do it.
Exactly.
You know, I think
I've heard who Georgia's biggest donor is, and I'm not going to share his name. And he's a person I know who's been very successful in his career and rose to prominence in his field. But he's not what you would call a billionaire or anything like that. And, you know, he would be a low-level millionaire.
Yeah. Well, I think Jimmy, I don't know the numbers, you know, people joke. Jimmy Rain, they said a couple of years ago he was the only billionaire in Alabama.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's the biggest, or he was the biggest Auburn supporter. I did, back to spring football, I guess nothing was, the Nate Frazier injury, there wasn't anything to that, was it? In spring?
I hadn't heard much about it since then, so it's just probably being precautious with him. You know, Kirby talked about how the fact of the matter of their explosiveness last year should have been bigger and better than it was, and because they had a strong running game last year, and all going off play action, most of their explosive plays come off play action, but they just weren't getting that production off the play action. Some of that goes back to the quarterback and the way he distributes the football and the way he reads plays and things like that. And that's a step up, I think, that maybe the quarterback needs to make next year, is being able to make that extra edge where it find more explosive plays down the field. But again, they lost Zachariah Branch, their top receiver, who
got drafted by the Falcons.
Exactly. Who's going to step in for them? They're going to be a brand new field of players on the wideouts, basically.
The story about him getting arrested went away quickly when he got drafted.
Well, what I read about that, it really sounded, again, I wasn't there, I don't know, but
I know what you're going to say. It sounded a little nitpicky.
Yeah, it does. Just like, my son-in-law was talking about an incident he had when he was in medical school at Augusta, and a friend of his was arrested for almost the exact same circumstances. And it was just kind of like the cop was on the edge or something.
Right. And,
wound up, charges were dropped in that case. I don't know what the status of the Branch situation is. He's from what I've heard about him and all seen, he doesn't seem to be a guy who's a troublemaker. He's just an error in judgment or whatever. Maybe he just should have walked on down the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you and I never did anything stupid when we were that age.
All right, we're going to edit that right out of the right out. Well, hey, we've got a rule change proposed by the NCAA that would give 5 years to play 5 seasons, no exceptions, no redshirt rules, nothing else. The clock starts ticking after you graduate high school or you turn age 19, whichever comes first, and then boom, the clock starts ticking. You like that?
I do.
You think it'll work?
I would think so. I mean, it's easy to say you're for that. I mean, if you do that, are you somehow taking away opportunities from guys? I mean, there does come a time when a 24, 25-year-old guy shouldn't be playing against an 18-year-old guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's one of the things they're trying to get away from is not just the 24 and 25, but the 26 and 27.
Yeah.
They've made so many exceptions for guys to come and play, and it's a dramatic difference between 18-year-olds and 25-year-olds. I mean, there's so much maturity that goes on during that. Physically, mentally, the brain functions differently, and bodies mature, and all of those things are factors. And you know, not many 18-year-olds are ready right off the bat to come in and compete at that level. So this will give them a chance, and now they won't have that silly, well, let's just play him 4 games. If we need him for the 5th game or whatever, we can run him in there. But you just, sooner or later, somebody's going to say, well, I was hurt that year, and I need to have another year. And the rule, the NCAA says, tough. I'm sorry. Those are facts of life. You get hurt, you just lose a year.
The Trinidad Chambliss situation at Ole Miss, I know he's eligible.
He's eligible right now.
But there was, I heard talk that somehow the NCAA was going to try to do something to, you know, overturn that. Did that just go away?
I don't know the latest on that. You know, it was based on the fact that he didn't file any paperwork or something related to an illness or injury or something on time, and so therefore it shouldn't count against him. You know, all it takes is a judge who agrees with you, and that's where the NCAA is in trouble. Is that
the whole jurisdiction? I don't know how that works. As a judge was an Ole Miss grad.
Yeah. I'm sure he was totally unbiased.
Yeah, unbiased, yeah.
You know, and I just saw that there's another, what was a legal case that was coming up, and let me see what it was. Oh, it was it's about NIL money and what they call MMR partners and money going in, and you know, there's a legal case. They're in court all the time about all these issues, and it just gets tiresome. And you cannot manage your organization if you're always being challenged by your basic rules, and judges are coming up. And that's where we got to with this transferring every year.
Well, I mean, you can't, it's hard to feel sorry for some of these big-time coaches. They get paid so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, think about just having to just constantly recruit your own guys, and just worried about the guys. I mean, you're scared you can't get on them and discipline them and tell them what they need to hear because you're worried they're going to transfer somewhere.
Well, Georgia seems to have been able to keep more athletes in football from transferring than some of the other schools. Now their basketball team virtually lost everybody after last season. The women's basketball team's only bringing back 2 players after the coach left. And so in Tennessee, their women's basketball team, the whole team transferred out.
Yeah.
And so that coach had to bring in a whole new squad. And that's not unusual. It happens all the time.
Well, in one way, all that stuff, and we talk about it all the time, the portal and all that has made it, I guess is a pretty solid argument. It's leveled the playing field, made people potentially more competitive.
Well, sure. I mean, just like Kirby said, those teams from the past, they were stacked up because those players, they were not exactly trapped at Alabama, but if they had transferred, they would have had to say, I've got to sit out a full year, and then I get to play. And it's just delayed things along. And now you can just transfer and play right away.
Well, if I was a Georgia fan, I would hate it. I would always want it to be 2021 again when the team was stacked. But a Georgia fans should be happy because they have a team that they're still doing the high school recruiting. They still have a great foundation. And they're going to have a shot, you know, I think, this year, next year.
Yeah.
And if you stay in the mix long enough, you know, you may win one.
That's right. That's right.
And they're in the mix, and that's all you can hope for because anybody can beat you now. The playing field's more level, but they can also I think for the foreseeable future, they're going to have the type team that can beat anybody.
Well, people are upset because they've lost in their first game of the college football playoffs the last 2 years, but this is still one of the blue bloods of college football, one of the standards, if not the premier standard right now in college football. Everybody says we'd like to be like that program.
That's right.
Now, Indiana certainly has introduced itself into the conversation. It will be very interesting to see what they do this year. They're bringing in another transfer quarterback, and we'll just have
to. You talking about the betting odds? They're saying they're predicting them to. Somebody was telling me that they're. I'm not into the gambling thing, but people are predicting them to be good again.
Well, in a sense, you have to say, what they do last year, why would they not do that again this year? And again, they lost the Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, who was only there 1 year, and now they're bringing in another transfer quarterback. So let's see.
But just at a foundational level, they can't be better than Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Or Ohio State even. They won the big. They did all that, everything they did, but I don't know. I just don't. It'll be interesting to see if they can sustain it.
It will be. It will be. Hey, let me pivot something real quick. Major League Baseball's introduced the ABS system, automatic balls and strikes challenge. Did you know they're going to do that in the SEC baseball tournament in Hoover, Alabama this year?
I think I heard that. I hadn't really given it a lot of thought.
How do you like it? What they've been doing in Major League Baseball?
I hadn't watched a lot of it. I mean, I'm okay with it.
Well, we went to a Braves game a couple of weeks ago, and it was interesting when they would throw it up there on the screen and everybody'd see it, and it drew your attention. It was just added something else to the game. I don't know how much the umpires like it. Sometimes they look bad, even when they're off by 1/10 of an inch. That's a pretty small margin of error that you're being judged on. But I like it, and we'll see whether it is. But the thing you have to wonder, it takes some technology to put that in place. Are colleges going to have to put that in place at their college baseball stadiums?
Technology is affecting everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's something pure and wholesome about maintaining as much of the human element as you can. Even if your team gets a bad call sometimes, it just seems like it's, in all sports.
Yeah. And here's another funny thing I heard today. How many times has Georgia played at Kyle Field in College Station? Not as many times as the Savannah Bananas.
The Bananas play there?
They played there with 105,000 fans.
Okay, Texas A&M Georgia football trivia. I'm pretty sure this is right. Have you ever read the book The Junction Boys?
I have not.
You should read it.
All right.
Gene Stallings was part of that group. Bear Bryant took him out. I was about to tell the story backwards. You know the only game they won that year?
Texas A&M? Georgia?
Yep.
How about
they
that?
Came to Athens and beat Georgia. They were 1-9.
Oh wow! I had no idea.
Yeah. I was thinking they played in wherever, College Station, but the story in the book was they were smoking cigars on the plane flying home.
Well, I don't think Georgia's ever played there. They played Texas A&M a few times before they were in the SEC. The one you just mentioned. The 1980 national championship season, Texas A&M came to Athens that year.
Everybody forgets about that.
And they played, I think it was in the Oil Bowl or something like that back in the 40s. And Texas A&M, I think, won that game by a pretty good margin, if I'm not mistaken. But again, still Georgia has not been to College Station, and they've been in the league now for 12, 14 years, something like that. And whatever.
Speaking of them, it's like Texas. How can they not be better than they are? All that money and all that supposed football, whatever they got out there going on in Texas.
You look back to their last season, they just had some bad losses. I mean, didn't Florida beat them?
Well, no, let's see, they were undefeated and they got beat by South Carolina. Was it South Carolina beat them? Or they pulled that one out? I can't remember.
Yeah. Short memories. Oh boy. What else, Jim? What else we want to talk about here? Here's something real quick. This is not related directly to football, but Arkansas is one of 4 college programs that's announced as giving up tennis.
I saw that. That's what they've all been saying. The whatever you call it, the side effect of the money flow.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that is only about 2 to 3% of Arkansas's athletic budget for tennis. So, I mean, they're saving 2 to 3%, which is not a small amount. But is it really worth it to give up a program?
Wow.
And it really, I've read, it's kind of scary to other programs. I think if the SEC cannot sustain all of these sports, how can the other schools hope to do it?
I wonder if Jerry Jones has got any grandchildren they can give a tennis scholarship to and get a donation.
Well, they say one of the problems is there's just not enough American players that want to play college tennis. And there's so many foreigners, and Georgia's no exception, that dominate the programs these years. And it's like, you know, everybody's, you put on the uniform and you pull for the person, but I always like it when we have people from the United States that are on the team and doing well.
My best friend from Macon, his son plays at Mercer, and all the kids on Mercer's team they're not, I think he may be the only American kid on the team.
Well, my daughter actually played some college tennis up at Emmanuel College, and her senior year, her roommate was the #1 player on the team, and she was from England. And we used to the difference in the language barrier was interesting. She came to Emily one time and said, "This boy asked me for my digits." Emily said, "He wants your phone number."
Did you hear King Charles' speech? He was talking about the differences in England and America. He said the first one is language. My wife she was born in England. So
No kidding, I didn't know that.
She lived till she was 5 years old. But
What is she of? So does she have dual citizenship then?
she does.
Okay.
Well, no, she officially doesn't. I guess she could. I don't know how that works.
Was she born to American parents in England?
No, she was born to British parents.
Okay.
And they immigrated.
How's her accent?
She talks like she's from Gwinnett County. But no accent at all. Her sister was a little older when they moved, and she didn't have an accent either.
I guess you hang around Southern people, you talk like Southern people. Except for you and I.
That's right.
We sound very continental, I'm sure.
We do.
Oh, boy. So early predictions for the SEC. You think Texas is the team to look out for?
I think it's just it's time. I mean, my son, he follows it closer now. He don't like Sarkisian. He says they don't have, they lost this player, they lost that player, but I don't know. I just think it's time for them to be good. Cam Coleman and Arch Manning, it can be a deadly duo.
Could be. So
what about you?
Well, I think Georgia's got to be up there. I mean, they've won the last 2 SEC championships, and they're not. I don't know if they're any better next year, but they're not significantly worse. And the schedule is not quite as daunting as it was the last couple of years. So I think you got to put them in there. What about Alabama and their extended contract that they gave to Kalen DeBoer?
I don't know. I don't understand. That's happened with a lot of coaches, and I just don't understand. Again, the dollars and the rationale for doing that. But I for some weird reason, I think maybe they've been going through a transition the last couple of years, not just with Saban being gone and a new coach. It was going to all be different no matter who it was. I think that guy's smarter than people give him credit for. I think there may be a little bit of transition, him putting his mark on the program, and I think they may surprise some people.
Well, if he had avoided the ugly losses, I think there would not be a whole lot of controversy about him. I mean, losing to Oklahoma 2 years ago, losing to Florida State last year, those were ugly losses. And so, and then almost losing to South Carolina, that could have been an ugly loss. And then the way they got hammered in the playoffs. Here's if I'm an athletic director and I'm thinking, I'm paying this guy, what is he, $10 million a year. And supposedly Michigan made a run for him when Sharon Moore got in trouble up there, and they suddenly had to find a coach. And he stayed. But they were thinking, what are we going to do the next time somebody comes at him? And so that's why they bump him up. Does the extra $2 or $3 million really buy him extra loyalty to the school?
Probably not.
I would approach it like, listen, I hired you to do a job. If you're doing that job, I'm going to keep paying you what I paid you. If you do better than I expected, I'll bump you up.
I don't know enough about him to know where, he might want to go. It's like with Urban Meyer when he was at Florida. People they always said he wanted to go to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
But hindsight, looking back on it, the way he kind of stumbled around and left Florida, and all of a sudden he goes to Ohio State and does what he does. It's almost hindsight looks like that's what he always wanted to do, and he kind of orchestrated that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if DeBoer has a place. I don't know. That he would want to be.
That's another reason Georgia feels so fortunate. Where would Kirby Smart rather coach? Nowhere.
Yeah.
This is his dream job, and he's getting paid dream money to do it.
Yeah.
So he's not going to want to go anywhere. So that's a good thing. So, the Alabama people were not happy with the extension, and it basically means they're not going to fire him next year.
No.
Unless the wheels just absolutely fall off the wagon, and they go 5-6 or something crazy like that. He's there for at least another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And again, I don't know why. My gut tells me he's going to do better than a lot of people think he's going to do. I know we'll talk about this in the fall. I think everybody's got a tough schedule. Auburn's, I don't know if you've looked at their schedule. They got a really tough schedule.
Do they?
They got Florida. They got Texas. They got, I know they play Oklahoma.
Well, they play Georgia, of course.
They play Georgia, of course.
And Alabama.
I'm trying to remember if they play Texas or anyway.
I think they do play Texas.
I think they.
Because they didn't play Texas last 2 years. So if you didn't play Texas before, you're playing Oklahoma now, or vice versa.
Well, I think they may play Oklahoma there. Anyway.
So they got Texas and Oklahoma?
I don't think that's right. They got one or the other. But my point was, even if they were a team that had high expectations, that had been good, if it was Georgia was playing their schedule, you would say that's a tough schedule and that's going to be tough. But I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to have some quarterback play they hadn't had in 6 or 7 years. And I think this guy's doing a good job if you believe everything.
Mm-hmm.
But the schedule is just, if they may win, if they could win 8 games, that might be a miracle season.
Yeah.
And not make the playoffs. But I think that quarterback is going to be a good player.
All right, you followed Auburn. It's not that long ago that they were at the top of the food chain. What happened?
Well, my son's got all these opinions. I think he thinks they never should have fired Gus Malzahn, but from being an Auburn fan, growing up in the state of Georgia, the Georgia game is the most important game. Georgia started winning, and this is hurtful because they started dominating the head-to-head with Auburn, or got the upper hand on the head-to-head before they really became a better program. Auburn, we beat y'all 4 out of the last 5 years, but we could reach in our hip pocket and pull out that national championship in 2010 with Cam, and then went back and almost won it 3 years later.
Right.
And then, and again, I always think of everything in the context of Auburn versus Georgia, because that's the 2 teams I pay attention to because of where I live and my team I like. But the last 10, Alabama and Georgia both have been very good. And if you're Auburn, that's probably never happened in the whole history of the program.
That both of those schools were good,
Good
at the same time.
Because for years, Auburn sort of had people don't remember Coach Dooley had a losing record against Auburn.
Yeah.
But Auburn was getting killed by Alabama every year. And then, Auburn did well against Alabama. They did well against both of them there for a stretch. But it's hard when your two biggest rivalries are conference games and they're that good. And it's not been very good.
Who are their three permanent teams? I know Georgia and Alabama are two of the permanent teams they play.
South Carolina, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, South Carolina.
No, Georgia, South Carolina, right?
Georgia and South Carolina, Georgia and Auburn and Georgia and Florida is their three. Is it Kentucky or Mississippi State or Florida?
It's not Florida. It's not any of those.
Okay, but you figure that two of their permanent rivals they're going to have on their schedule every year.
Yeah.
Georgia and Alabama. I mean, it doesn't matter what else is on there. Already that's two very, very hard football games. You're almost counting, well, the best we can do is 10-2.
Yeah.
You seem like. And that doesn't leave any room for error after that.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be, I hope this is right. Well, the other thing about Texas we didn't talk about is Muschamp going out there. Maybe he'll get their defense. Auburn kept their defensive coordinator. So I hope if the program, they kind of stabilize the program, it'll be a little bit like it's been at Georgia the last few years, where you're not worried about the defense.
Yeah.
And all that assumes that you got guys that can play.
Yeah.
You brought guys in the portal that can, stand toe to toe with some of these other teams, which that might be a big if. But I just think if you believe what you read, the offense, we're going to have a quarterback, and that's going to be big.
Yeah. What about the Lane Kiffin effect at LSU? What do you think is going to happen there?
I saw somebody talking about them, how favorable their schedule was.
Okay.
How the games lay out. And I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can't help it. I think they're going to be good. I think I feel about them, like I feel about Georgia and Ohio State and some other programs, Florida. I mean, there's no excuse for you not to be good.
Yeah.
And if they win early and get rolling, I think they'll be hard to deal with.
Well, here's a team we really haven't talked about yet. Jared Curtis says he's going to win a national championship at Vanderbilt.
I got a friend of mine who lives up in Nashville, and it drives him crazy, the hype about Jared Curtis. He said he played at a little school like Athens Academy. He's not going to. My friend's from Athens that lives in Nashville, but.
Well, I saw him play in high school. I saw him when he was at Nashville Christian. They played against Prince Avenue Christian, a game up in Chattanooga, and Prince Avenue won 44-0.
Yeah.
He took his team down the field the very first drive of the game, and after that was never a threat. Now, he was a sophomore then, and he grew a lot and matured a lot since then. So you can't just say out of one game, but he's making a big jump in level of play, just like Arch Manning had to do, and it took him a while to make that jump. Now, we would have thought it laughable before for him to say, I can win a national championship at Vanderbilt, but the Diego Pavia effect and what Vanderbilt's done the last couple of years.
Well, it's the whole Indiana, you got to believe that program, Vandy, it's got to be a little bit easier for them to go in kids' living room and say, hey, come, look what we've done, We're one or two players away from having a team that can play with anybody.
And they're back on the Georgia schedule, I think, this year. Of course, Georgia never played against Diego Pavia the last 2 years, and so he didn't have to beat the Bulldogs or anything. Diego, is he signed? Didn't he get a deal with
the Ravens or something, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Baltimore Ravens. He's so short. It's going to be tough for him to play in the NFL, despite his athleticism. He's a great athlete. Yeah. It's just the physics of it just work against him.
If he would have come along 50 years ago, they would have tried to move him to defensive back or something, wouldn't they? Just because he's athletic.
And there you go. Yeah. I did get a chance to talk with Richard Appleby a few weeks ago, and hopefully we'll do some podcasts based on Richard's career at the University of Georgia. Speaking of Richard, I mentioned to you I got to go to a track meet Saturday and catch up with Maxie Foster. Some Georgia people may recognize his name as the first scholarship black athlete at the University of Georgia on the track team. He and I graduated high school together, and he was a quarter miler at Georgia, and got a chance to see him. Good to see him. And while I was there, I saw Jonathan Sims, a freshman at Georgia, ran a 44.02 in the 400, which is maybe the fastest time in the country this year so far. And he beat the other guy by 0.005 of a second, who was the defending NCAA champion.
Those
so
guys are strolling on.
Those guys are moving along pretty good, I'm telling you.
Well, talking about Maxie, it's interesting, the talk, the five guys that were on the first black athletes on the Georgia football team. Out of the 5 of them, 3 of them were from Athens.
Exactly.
Which was interesting. And then you talk about Maxie being from Athens.
Yeah. And even it goes deeper than that, the Athens connection. There were actually 2 other young men from Athens who actually played a practice football at Georgia. You had Ken Dias, who went on to become an attorney in Athens, and James Hurley, they were Hurley Funeral Home, was his family. They both had played briefly in practice, but never actually suited up in a game. They were both Bernie Harris athletes. So they had kind of even paved the way before these 5 guys got there.
Well, I think the other 2 guys, one of them was from Rome, one of them was from Albany.
Yeah. Chuck Kennebrew and Larry West.
Did we figure out, I think you and I talked, is Chuck Kennebrew Larry Kennebrew's older brother? He's got to be related to him.
I don't think he's a brother. They may be cousins, but I don't think he's an older brother. But yeah. And Larry, I understand, is a pastor up in the D.C. area.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm not sure where Chuck is. He may still be up in the Rome area or whatever. But
Larry was a Herschel Walker type talent when he came along a little
really?
Before. He played in the NFL for a while. He had a kind of a weird college. I always get him and Pete Johnson from Fort Valley mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
They both came along about the same time. I think they both played for the Cincinnati Bengals for a little while. But I remember my family's originally from up around Rome, and just to talk about, you would have thought, obviously he didn't pan out like Herschel did, but in college and pro and whatever, but he was a player.
Well, the guy who could have been Herschel before Herschel was a name, I don't know if you remember this guy, Sylvester Bowler.
Where's he from?
He's from Augusta area, and he was a freshman linebacker on the 1973 Georgia football team. And about midway in the season, he just exploded out of the midst of everybody else on the team. And the last 4 or 5 games of the year, he just kind of dominated. They put him on the cover of the media guy the next year. He was I think he might have been the MVP in the Peach Bowl and everything. And he was just going to be a superstar. And he wound up getting in trouble with the RA at the athletic dorm, and
I'm about to read up on him.
And just kind of disappeared from the scene. But he got so much media hype and had a lot of the same attributes of a young man that Herschel had, and he could have been the Herschel Walker before Herschel Walker on defense, and things just didn't pan out for him. But Sylvester Bowler.
I have to Google him.
I had the year, that 73 game, he really came out of the shadows when they played Tennessee up in Knoxville. And Georgia went out to like a 21-0 lead, and then Tennessee rallied behind the artful Dodger, Condridge Holloway. Wow, what a player he was. And then Georgia managed to score late to win the game, and it was a big win for them. And they had lost to Vanderbilt and Kentucky back-to-back, and that was very unusual. That didn't happen very often. So to win at Knoxville, and in fact, Munson was stunned by the win because I think that was his first Georgia game he had called in Knoxville. And he remembered all those Vanderbilt years he called in Knoxville where they never won.
Well, speaking about black athletes, Condridge Holloway was a pioneer. I guess was he the first SEC quarterback, African American?
He could have been. I'd have to look that up to see. But man, what a player he was. So
he's in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. I
think.
think.
Probably so. Hey, we mentioned Larry Munson. What about the news about Georgia's play-by-play, Jeff Dantzler and John Stinchcomb, the color announcers?
Well, you and I talked about it. We like Dantzler. It's just kind of a strange thing.
Well, we like Scott Howard too. I mean, I feel good for one and bad for the other.
Yep. 18 years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know. I have no idea what went on behind the scenes. And like you said, unfortunately, I was talking to somebody at lunch today, you know, that's younger than me. I said, you don't remember when how big the radio broadcast used to be 40 years ago, you know, before all the games were on TV. But unfortunately for, you know, radio in general, you know, everybody's watching the game on their phone.
Yeah. It used to be if you were driving, you had to listen to it on your phone. Now, if you're driving, you still got to listen to it. But the passengers over there's got their phone out and watching the game. Yeah. So it's not as big a deal. I have no doubt that Jeff Dantzler will do an admirable job as a play-by-play. I've said this many times. He's the best basketball play-by-play announcer that I've heard. When you listen to Jeff, you know where the ball is and what's happening at every second it's on the floor. And so I have no doubt that he'll be able to carry that over into football. He has done a little bit of football, I understand, with New Orleans Saints preseason games on television, which I was not aware of until recently. So it's not like he's never done football. But this will be a new experience for him, and I hope he does well for his sake. And
well, he loves the University of Georgia.
Oh, yeah, and the guy has an encyclopedic knowledge.
He does. He does.
There's nothing about Georgia sports that he does not know at an instant recall. I don't know how he does it.
Maybe like my old buddy of mine, you say maybe he's got a pornographic memory. No, all jokes aside, I mean, he'll do great. I don't know much about John Stinchcomb. I know his brother is more visible.
John, hadn't he done some TV color?
Well, what's his brother?
Matt Stinchcomb's his brother.
Yeah, he's the one that's more visible, does the play-by-play on the SEC game of the week or something.
It could be. I tell you the truth, I don't know which one's which, but I don't have any doubt that he'll do fine. You know, I didn't hear much of Josh Brock last year, so I really didn't have much. You know, I thought Eric Zier did a fine job as color commentator when he was there.
Yeah, I do too. And as my understanding, Eric it was his own personal choice to step aside.
Yeah. I think so. I think so too. So, but it'll be interesting, and I look forward to listening to Jeff this year and hearing what he has to say. And I'm sure he'll have some signature calls that will go down in history. He had one in baseball this year with
that's right.
That catch of Cole Johnson against Tennessee. So it was a memorable play, and he was ready for the call. So
I enjoy, even though I'm not a Georgia fan, it's just kind of part of if I'm up on a Saturday morning, just all the pregame stuff, you know. It's part of your day, you know. And I listen to the little thing they do on Sunday at the Hilltop Grill sometimes, the recap of the
game. I wonder if he'll continue to do that. I'm just not sure that he can work that into his schedule. Him and Kevin Butler, they've been on that call-in show for so long. He may do the Sunday morning show, but I don't know if he will do the post-game show like he's done. They may have to find somebody else to fill in that role, which, you know, this is interesting tidbit about this. He'll go to the Georgia-Florida game. I don't know that he's been to the Georgia-Florida game in 20 years.
What?
Well, he's always had to stay back and do that fifth quarter call-in show.
That's true.
So it'll be a rare experience, as far as I know, for him to go down to the Georgia-Florida game.
We didn't talk about Florida.
But then, of course, this year, it's going to be in Atlanta.
That's true. He won't. He'll get to go to
go to Atlanta, and then is it Tampa they're going to play at the?
I think so, yeah.
The other year?
Or Orlando. Is it Orlando or Tampa?
I can't. Maybe it's Orlando. I can't remember.
We didn't talk about Florida. I know Georgia fans want to hear about Florida, but I think my gut on them is that new coach they got, he's kind of like Kirby. He's kind of crazy like a fox. I think he's.
Well, he hired a great offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner.
I just think he's got that, whatever it is, that's going to allow him to recruit to Florida like somebody ought to recruit to Florida. Okay, you know, do like Spurrier and Urban Meyer did. You know.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, of course, Buster brought with him 2 players from Tech who went to Prince Avenue. Aaron Philo, the quarterback, and he and another quarterback are duking it out. I don't think they've named a starter yet.
back to spring practice, I think Philo, everybody thought he was the guy, and then he kind of didn't have a great spring game.
Now, I've heard through the grapevine that Stockton, the Prince Avenue receiver, has just wowed them. They've been so pleased with what he's done down there, and he's been a great player. Florida, interesting little side tidbit. Florida, of course, is in a state that not only has Miami and Florida State, South Florida, Central Florida, Florida International, Florida Atlantic. There's going to be one more Division I school in Florida, West Florida.
Yeah, that's right.
They announced recently they're going to go to Division I.
Pretty nice stadium or something crazy like that. That's the only thing I saw.
I guess they think they can make enough money to justify it, but that's just one more Division I program. What is Georgia has 3 Division I programs? 4. Georgia, Georgia State, Georgia Tech, Kennesaw State. And Georgia Southern is still not Division I, are they?
Yeah, they are.
Are they? So that's 5.
I guess
okay.
5.
Yeah, and I don't see anybody else from Georgia joining that parade anytime soon.
Yeah, always look out for those Fort Valley State Wildcats. They may make a move.
Oh, me. Well, you got any exciting plans for the summer?
Probably go to the beach a little bit, but nothing major. How about you?
Well, Jan and I have been talking about doing a cruise.
You told me that, yeah.
So we may do a little cruise. You know, she's going to have knee replacement surgery again in July. Her second bad knee. The first one went well, so she's going to go ahead and do the other one. So, and we kind of wanted to schedule around that. We got a grandson graduating high school coming up. We want to make sure we're here for that. And then we got a short window. She works the polls during the summertime and the early voting. We got to squeeze in our vacation schedule around all those different kind of things. So we're thinking about maybe doing a cruise early in June. And so we'll hopefully do that. And figure a cruise, you don't have to do a lot of walking, just do a lot of eating.
That's right, eating and sitting in the lounge chair. We talked about, had a little discussion. We found out we have a little bit of a common affection for certain trees and plants. Do you have a vegetable garden?
I do not have a vegetable garden. I've never been much of a vegetable gardener. I have some scuppernong vines out here that I grow some scuppernong grapes. I've got some peach trees. I do actually have some peaches. I was worried this year we had a late freeze, but there's a few peaches, and I think I won't even have to thin them out. They kind of self-thinned, so I'll have some peaches. I used to grow some strawberries right over there, but I let that get out of hand today. I went to Double Branch's farm over in Lincolnton.
You went today?
I went today.
You didn't invite me. I'm offended.
And see my old friend Brian Tankersley and Becky Tankersley. They run Double Branch's farm. I
don't have my pen.
I got some strawberries from them over there. We just put up 5 pints today, so we're good for that homemade ice cream. Boy, did we have some good homemade ice cream Sunday night.
We did. That was something. I think I understand that came from the Moon Farms family. The guy made it. You can go by there and they sell it.
Yeah,
Moon Farms out there in Colbert.
It was that good strawberry ice cream he made.
Did they have any in Lincolnton? Do they have blueberries yet?
Not yet. They're close. He said maybe in a couple of weeks they'll have blueberries, and they're going to have some blackberries. They got a lot of blackberries too, and then they'll kind of be they'll grow some corn. They'll have some sweet corn available. He said they plant their corn early, and they usually have the first sweet corn available toward the end of May even. And so he's got quite an operation. This is a farm he grew up on down there in Lincolnton, Georgia, and he's consolidated it, bought the rest of it from his siblings that inherited some of it, brought it all together. It's got 140 acres, and they got an 11-acre pond on the property that they use. In fact, the neighboring golf course sucks water out of the pond and pays him for it to water their greens and their fairways and everything.
Well, we talked about that the other night. We were at the little event with Russ Tanner at the Colbert First Baptist Church. And I'm gonna ride up there. I'm gonna get some blueberries. But talking about back to the vegetable garden. You've been to my house. We have a little small lot, and our house is kind of tall. I just don't have any.
And you've got a lot of shade too.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I can't eat my grass. I struggle with the grass. But I've got a little spot with a little garden, and I've got about 3 times as much stuff planted as there's room for.
Did you plant that little maple, Japanese maple?
Not yet, but I watered it and I got it. I'm trying to figure out if it's.
Well, it looked pretty sad.
Yeah.
You know, that probably came from Jane Bath's yard. Jane is I wouldn't say she's world renowned. She's pretty well known as a person who's a landscape expert, used to be in the nursery business, has written one of the most helpful little home landscape books you'll ever read. She's got a farm out in Bishop, and they don't really grow anything commercially out there, but she's always got a lot of Japanese maples, and she's let us come out and dig up the volunteers, and I've nursed them along and got some planted in my yard, given some away, and I hope yours does.
Well, if that Japanese maple survives, that'll be a great story. Because
now there's one right over there. If you'll see that red one,
yeah,
and you'll see green growing up in it, that's where one that was grafted, and what's below the graft has come up. So I've got to cut off those suckers that have come up and grown through that red one. So you've got a two-tone Japanese maple, which I don't really want. I just want the red part without the green. So we'll cut it off.
The reds are beautiful, but there's so many of them. As I told you, I want more of a green yellow.
Well, I got a green one right behind you there. You may not can see it from where you are, and I'll show it to you after we finish up here. And I positioned it perfectly. It's in the exact right spot. It grows the exact right size it needs to be, and I hardly ever have to prune it and everything. So it was one of the things I got lucky with. So,
well, I wish I had a little more room, but if I have any vegetables to grow trees, if I have some vegetables, I'm probably gonna have to pull up some of my tomatoes. They're gonna choke each other out. I got cantaloupes, zucchini, regular squash, and some peppers. There's no way. I mean, it's tiny little space.
Maybe you should try vertical gardening.
I know. I probably should.
Where it just filters down, and the water from one drops down to the next one.
Next spring, you have to come over there and help me build that.
I've never done it. I've just seen it on YouTube. I'm not an expert, but I'm not an expert in podcasting either. But we've been doing it for a good time and having good fun with it.
That's right. We figured we're going to sit around and talk about stuff, and we'll do it on camera.
There you go. Well, Jim, it's good to catch up again in spring, and looking forward to the fall. And like I said, we may have some podcasts here coming up the next few weeks, and but we'll certainly crank it up in earnest come August as the football season gets cranked up. So, hey, folks, tell everybody about Sidelines and Headlines. If you like what you see, subscribe and like it. Send a link to your friends so they know about it. We saw somebody over at the barbecue the other day said, I didn't know you guys had a podcast. We're not doing enough good job advertising. Yeah. So help us out and spread the word for Sidelines and Headlines. But in the meantime, we want to say good day and God bless to you. Jim, good to catch up with you again.
You too. Enjoyed it, Blake.
Signing off here on Sidelines and Headlines.